Welcome to BPC's Health Corner. I'm Joanne Donellan, and with us today is Janet Marshbrota, and she is Director of the Health Innovation Initiative here at the BPC. Welcome, Janet.
Thanks, Joanne. It's great to be here.
So this was a huge week for medical innovation. President Obama passed and signed the 21st Century Cures Act, and it's been heralded as landmark, significant legislation. So, explain to me, why is this such a breakthrough bill?
So, Joanne, the 21st Century Cures Act is a comprehensive $6.3 billion package that truly is unprecedented. It contains both funding for research and a number of provisions that will improve the way that we approve drugs and cures, treatments for patients in the U.S. The other thing that's really unprecedented is the bipartisan cooperation. If you saw what happened, the House and the Senate.
I did.
Amazing.
It was amazing.
Almost unanimous passage of the bill with heavy involvement of the president and the vice president.
And actually, part of the bill was named after his son.
That's right, and it was a surprise.
Right,
So,
Joe Biden, he died of cancer just a year ago, brain cancer. And for our viewers that don't know, but it was a real moment, I think, because Senator Mitchell, actually, a Republican, introduced to change the name. So that was a big, bipartisan moment, which I think that everybody was really happy to see for the Vice President.
It really was, and Vice President Biden was overseeing the cloture vote the night before the normal vote occurs in the Senate, and Mitch McConnell announced that they would change one component of the bill devoted to cancer, and it was a surprise, and it was very heartwarming, and it really reflects how important this bill is to all of us. Every American is touched by disease in this country.
Right, and the BPC worked for 2 years on this legislation. Your hard work here with your team, and 14 of our recommendations were actually provided in the bill. And so, how are these recommendations going to impact regular Americans, patients that are dealing with diseases every day?
Well, I'll tell you, Joanne, the 21st Century Cures Act touches almost every family in our country. If you think about it, for the 10,000 known diseases, there are only 500 for which we have cures. We don't have cures for things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer, and other diseases. And so what the bill does, it's got two primary provisions. The first is a big bolus of funding for research to the NIH. Which is incredible, addressing things like cancer, and we talked about Vice President Biden, neurological diseases such as Alzheimer's, a precision medicine initiative which was supported by the president.
Right, that's his initiative.
And a small section on regenerative medicine clinical research. So that's number one. And then number two, aside from funding, we're in great need of modernizing our drug development process in the U.S., and the bill provides many provisions in order to get that done.
How does that work? I mean, what would be the process?
So it was a lot of legislation, and again, reflecting a number of roundtable discussions over 2, even 3 years in the House, listening to patients across the country. But let me just give you an idea of what's in it. So when we talk about modernizing the drug development process, the bill gives FDA additional tools, more modernized drug development tools like patient-reported outcomes to improve the process. It also enables the FDA to use real-world evidence, and we talked a little bit about that, to augment randomized controlled trials.
And that wasn't done before?
It was not. It was not.
So where did that change come from? Electronic health records?
Yes, I think, and at BPC we did have an event here in June, and Chairman Alexander joined us, and Senator Frist, former Senate Majority Leader Frist, who is one of our leaders, and Congressman Gordon. But we've invested about $30 billion in electronic health records, and so now, without getting into the details, clinical trials, you've got a narrow group of patients. Often you don't have people of color, of different ethnicities, maybe women. people that are younger or older. And so you're not able to really reflect what the drug does in the real world. And so now that we have electronic health records, we're able to bring that experience, not to replace those randomized controlled trials, but to augment them in order to see how drugs work in the real world. So that's another area.
It sounds like it's really going to empower the patient.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, the 21st Century Cures Act also has many other patient provisions, like bringing the patient voice into the drug development process, enabling patients to have access to their electronic health records, and even some provisions to help the agencies catch up and with the scientific advances.
Right, so tell me a little bit about that with the National Institutes of Cancer and also, National Institutes of Health, as well as the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. There's going to be additional resources for them. Just share a little bit of how it's going to impact the federal agencies.
So on the NIH side, it's primarily focused on funding, although there are some provisions to help them
with research?
To create, research tools. But on the FDA side, so think about it, you're a federal agency, you have a tough time recruiting staff and maintaining them, particularly when there aren't a lot of people in the country that have expertise in these new therapies like immunotherapies and regenerative therapies and all of the exciting things
which is
that
like
are happening.
cell therapies.
Yes,
right.
And there are a number of provisions in the bill related to that as well. And so what the legislation does is it relaxes some of the limitations on hiring. Some of the salary caps, enables them to do direct hiring. And
to really build top talent.
Absolutely, and to compete with the private sector.
Which is excellent.
Which can be hard to do.
Well, I know that, personally, my mom had Alzheimer's for 17 years, and, this is so exciting for patients and for families. So I'm excited. The excitement I know around the country, we can hear it through social media and everything. So what is next? Where do we go, from here?
Well, I think folks will take a breather here for the next couple of weeks, and that's important, but our work is not done. So what happens, legislation can't get into the details on how to implement something. It can provide some guidance. And so it's signed into law, as you mentioned, on Tuesday. And so January, when the new administration gets back to work, there are a number of details, things that need to be set up, regulations that need to be created to actually bring these things to life. So there will be a lot of work there.
It sounds like it will be a lot of work, but very exciting. And I know there's great momentum to really push these initiatives forward. So thank you so much for joining us today, Janet. And thank you to our audience here today. And if you want more information on our Medical Innovation Initiative, you can go to our website at bipartisanpolicy.org. And we just want to wish everyone a happy holiday, and we'll see you in our 2017.
Great. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.